Ted Cruz had a press conference with Marsha Blackburn and Lindsey Graham responding to the new Democratic plan to potentially expand the size of the Supreme Court from 9 justices to 13. He had a take on it that seemed a bit ahistorical, at least where he's concerned. Here's what he had to say.
What Senate Democrats and House Democrats are trying to do is fundamentally corrupt. Their first priority is to change the rules to stay in power. So instead, they're trying to rig the game. Instead, they're trying to fix the system. They're behaving like corrupt politicians. And by the way, just a few years ago, Republicans were in the same position. 2017, all of us were here. We had a Republican president, a Republican Senate, and a Republican House. We didn't do this. We could have. They love to say Donald Trump, to paint him as some crazy autocrat. You didn't see Republicans, when we had control of the Senate, try to rig the game. You didn't see us try to pack the court. There was nothing that would have prevented Republicans from doing what they're doing other than respect for the rule of law, other than basic decency, other than recognizing that democracy matters.
Okay, so I know that we're gonna jump into his own hypocrisy and the Republican hypocrisy in the Supreme Court. That's the core of the story, but let's just really fast note that he just talked about how they had nothing but respect for the rule of law. Just a heads up to you, your dude was impeached twice. So just bear that in mind, it's because he didn't have respect for the law. Also, in terms of he's like, they just wanna stay in power. We didn't do that. No, Donald Trump very much tried to break the rules to stay in power. Remember all that stuff that happened right in the set where you were doing that, when the mob was there and all the smoke and the fire and all of that, and then you actually tried to vote to overturn the election. You very much tried to break the rules to stay in power. So as we turn to the Supreme Court, let's just acknowledge that bit of this as well.
Yeah, and then in terms of rigging the Supreme Court and packing it or not packing it, I seem to remember that they blocked a Supreme Court justice from even being heard for about a year. That was Merrick Garland, and they called it the McConnell rule. And then when the McConnell rule was, hey, a year before an election, you cannot sit a Supreme Court justice. Then under Trump, they confirmed a Supreme Court justice a week before an election, a week. So that's why Trump was able to pack the court with 3 conservatives. That's why we just covered a story yesterday, another ruling, right-wing ruling, 6-3, because they packed the court by basically denying the normal due process for Merrick Garland to be heard under Obama, and then completely shredded their own rule in the most hypocritical way that you could possibly imagine. And then get a load of this. I want you to remember one other fact about the lying snake that is Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is the one Republican senator that said, even if Hillary Clinton wins and the Republicans hold the Senate, we shouldn't seat any Supreme Court justice until a Republican wins. That would seem to be rigging the courts, okay, but here he is, because that's the thing you and I can't understand about him. He has no shame at all, not even 1%.
No, this was the guy who was never going to have anything to do with Trump, and then to the point of the court, right in the wake of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death, he was one of the people that Trump had discussed putting up for her position. So that was a kind of big riggy kind of turnaround, and he also blocked some language that would have basically honored her last wishes, because he talked about them as being partisan, as opposed to basically honoring this woman who had been on the Supreme Court and blazed so many trails during her time in general. So I mean, he doesn't. The perspective that he brings is just. I mean, it's not. It's literally just a continuation of what's going on in his own universe.
Yeah, and look, if he doesn't like the new Democratic interpretation of the powers that they have being in power, remember, there's a little thing called Article 2. It means I can do anything I want. That's what his guy was saying for literally years. Did he have a problem with it then? Was he speaking up against that? I don't remember that. I do just have to take a slight issue with something you said, Cenk. Little fact check live on air. Ted Cruz is awful in all the ways that you said, but also Senator Richard Burr said in the run-up to Election Day 2016, if Hillary Clinton becomes president, I'm going to do everything I can do to make sure that 4 years from now, we're still going to have an opening on the Supreme Court. So that's at least two that we're okay with never putting anyone on the court. And Cruz said there's precedent for there only being 8. Breyer says that it's working just fine. They were never gonna put anyone on there. Like if it was 8 years of Hillary, we would just have eight people in there forever.
So Cruz was not only in favor of packing the court, he was in favor of unpacking the court.
He said there's precedent for a different number of justices. Well, why 8 but not 13?
Yeah.
By the way, all this is moot. That was just loose talk from Buttigieg, and nobody really believed that. And then as soon as Biden got into office, he said, "Oh, I'm going to set up a commission and pack it with Republicans." That commission is not going to say that they should increase the number of. You see, it doesn't matter what it says anyway. And then on top of that, Nancy Pelosi said, "We're not even bringing it up in the House. This is the most dead-ish, irrelevant issue ever." And so. Look, Anna and I were talking about this the other day. The Republicans have no plans, none. JR was saying it too, right? Since they have no actual policies, all they have is squirrels. They've got to distract you in one way or another. And in this case, they're saying, dead squirrel, okay. And by the way, we killed it earlier, but it's okay, whatever, squirrel. My final thought on this is I'm actually a little tired of covering Ted Cruz's verbal diarrhea. Right? The guy never tells the truth. And I think that, I don't know, I'm stuck on this one. We're at a similar place that we were with Trump when he was starting out. Like on the one hand, you have to knock down all their lies. On the other hand, it almost makes it real by even addressing it. It just assume going forward that if we haven't covered Ted Cruz on that day, that he definitely lied that day. Okay.
Are you considering a ban?
Well,
is he gonna be banned?
Yeah, he lies every single time that he talks about politics. And I think it was Nomi who just said it. Like, I mean, the guy, Trump said your wife was ugly and that your dad was a murderer. And then you bowed your head and now you're talking up about how great Donald Trump was as president. Does a single person in the country respect this vile creature anymore?